Well, hey everybody, it's your good buddy 650 Eve here, and I'm at Sills Motor Sales yet again for another episode of the new bike build series. This time we're using a brand new 2020 BMW S1000RR and a 2019 Aprilia RS V4 1100 factory. With the help of our channel sponsor, the magnificent Miami Manny from Motomillion, we're transforming both of those bikes into something truly special and amazing. At the end of this build series, we're giving one lucky individual the option to pick one of those motorcycles to keep for his or herself. Information on how you might be that lucky individual, hey, down below in the description. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you're already a subscriber, tap that bell and you'll get notified when new content is uploaded. We're gonna head inside Sills because it's very hot out here. It's windy, hot, beautiful, finally, great weather. But now we gotta find out what Zach's up to today and what we're gonna do to the S1000RR. Zach, what are you doing today?
Hey, what's going on? I've got our S1000 already starting to get torn down here because we got lots to do.
Yes.
So we have some awesome parts from Manny at Motomillion, of course.
Yes.
We are going to install our favorite Samco radiator hoses so we don't have any radiator hose trouble like we did last season.
Yeah.
And we have a different brand of exhaust here. We have an Aero exhaust.
Oh, a Motomillion Aero.
Yes, a Motomillion Aero. So it's going to wind up being a short system, and it has a little reverse megaphone or trumpet style can here.
Oh, okay.
Let's take a sneak peek. Let's see, full titanium.
Oh, I love it.
Going to be nice and light.
Yes.
We're going to get rid of this giant, huge muffler.
Yes.
And the only thing the one unknown is I'm not sure how well this is going to play with that belly pan, but
okay,
we'll see what happens once we get there.
Okay.
And that's going to be what we're going to do in today's episode. So the reason we're doing the radiator hoses at the same time, on this, the K67, the new model, yeah, I can get the stock exhaust off with the radiator still hanging, but these hoses are so tight, it's really hard to get the new exhaust on with the radiator on.
Okay.
It's a lot easier to just drain the coolant, pull the radiator off, so since we already got that happening,
yeah,
might as well just change the hoses.
Agreed.
And I think the blue is really going to look good with this Hockenheim silver color.
Yes, it will. Yep.
And we're going for a little bit of a pseudo HB4 look too on this bike, so it'll just help with that. So yeah, I just got the side fairings off because we've seen that a million times.
Yes.
Next step, we're gonna pull the silencer off the exhaust, and then we'll probably get the coolant draining.
Okay.
And get the radiator off, and then we got to deal with the oxygen sensors because this bike has 4 oxygen sensors now, 2 on each side, 1 before the catalytic converter and 1 after it. The one before it is actually a wideband. You can see that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wires or something in here. So yeah, you got a heat, and a bunch of signals. So it's actually, it can adjust. A wideband oxygen sensor is what usually you run back here when you're setting up and making dyno maps or something like that. So it's pretty cool that it can compute all that information on its own.
Yeah.
ECU. The back oxygen sensors, we're not going to dig and unplug them. We're able to just twist the wires. We did it before and it was fine. I've done it a couple times, haven't had an issue.
Yep.
These ones will unplug, but let's get going. We'll get this off and carry along.
Silencer removed.
Silencer off.
That looked easy enough. Now Zach has suggested for me to ride the bike like that to make it louder. I was like, no thanks.
Yeah, I've seen more than one person come in like that, and yeah, it just does not look very appealing. But it is way louder. Yeah. Because this bike is so quiet stock too.
Yes,
I mean, it's almost dangerously quiet. Mm-hmm. Next step, we're going to remove our exhaust servo motor cables. So we just there's one screw in here, and then you pop this little plastic cover off. Yeah, just like that, no problem.
Okay.
Pop this cover off, get it out of the way. We'll loosen up our cables here, and then we're gonna come over to this bracket. We have to take this screw out. We actually take this bracket out, and the whole motor is gonna come out. We're gonna be able to leave the exhaust flapper motors off because Bren Tuning can calibrate the ECU to not have a check engine light code with that. So it's awesome. It's just a bunch of weight savings we can have. And we don't need a servo buddy or anything like that. So just one of the great benefits of the Bren Tune. We'll talk more about that in the next episode.
Okay.
We have a whole Bren Tune episode coming up.
Yeah.
Shortly. Removing the screws that I was talking about. So this model too is way easier to get this exhaust flapper servo motor off than the previous generation. Previous generation, we needed to pull a bracket off this side and bend brackets and get brake lines out of the way. I believe this one, we just pull these 2 screws and then fish those cables through the frame.
Okay.
Oh, we got to disconnect the power, which still you can just get in there with the screwdriver. Here, if you want to come behind, you can see. which connector we're dealing with there.
Yep.
It's pretty tight over here on the frame and the engine, but there's definitely room, as you can see. And now we're extracted.
Nice.
Done with that. All right, now we can move on to our oxygen sensors. Like I said, these back ones, I don't even know if I've searched out where the connector actually is, but it's like way up here somewhere. Okay. So we're just gonna ever so carefully kind of try to twist our wires the opposite way of the way that we're gonna twist so that they don't get all kinked up. As long as we don't wind up with a knot down here, we're fine. See how they're starting to get tight down there?
Yeah.
But we had just enough. So then when we put it back in, I'll just pre-wind it that way and we'll spin it in. The front ones, like I said, the connector's right there, so no big deal. We can pop this zip tie. These are the new style double locking connectors. I think we showed it last time we worked on one of these bikes. So first you have to push on this gray tab and move it out. So that's step one. Then you push down on the gray tab and slide the cover off, and then it unlocks. Okay. This actually slides over, see? And then it locks in place. So yeah, just a different style connector that they decided to use.
Pretty secure?
Yeah, super secure. All right, up next we'll pop off the rear mount for our exhaust system. I think it's easier if we pull this little peg out of the frame, put a ratchet wrench on there, just because it gives us clearance to pull the bolt out of the middle. And then on the other side, we can pull this peg out after the exhaust is off, I think.
Okay.
Bolt out, that loosens up the rear mounting spots. Now we can drain the coolant, and I believe the way they have you do that is we can just open the radiator cap, and then we're just going to pull a hose on the other side. And we're gonna, well, actually, let's leave the cap on first, because then the coolant won't come flying out as much.
Okay.
All right, so now's the time you want to go over to your exhaust box, cut a little piece of cardboard out. That'll fit on your oil cooler here. It doesn't have to be super tight or anything, just so it protects the fins, because we are going to be moving exhaust pipes around everything, and we don't want those fins to fold over.
Yep.
Protected.
Yes.
Now we can pull the lower radiator mount, which is actually attached to the engine. I believe that's a T25 up in there. I don't think it's a 30. Oh, it is a 30.
Oh.
So this bolt's a little more accessible than on the old bike too, so that's nice. This used to be a pain right next to the oil filter. This one's kind of tight on the exhaust header itself. You might need a short socket. Luckily, I got a stubby 30. Just finagle this bracket out, and that is out of the way. Put it off to the side. We will reinstall that later on, because that's what holds our radiator and oil cooler.
Okay.
And yeah, on this side you have really good access to all the header bolts, so that's pretty nice.
Yes.
It's the other side that we wind up with trouble getting the springs on the aftermarket exhaust. So there's two 30s up here that hold our radiator on. We're just gonna go ahead and zap them out. All right, so up next we're just gonna remove 8 of our header nuts, which are 12.10 millimeter. Let me get one off. So you can see you need to use a 12-point socket on it.
Okay. Or
a spline socket or something like that. So just get all of these removed, and then we'll be ready to lower the exhaust system. So I got one left bolt holding the exhaust on. I want to get my coolant drain pan out of the way, but I want to dump this reservoir first because it's baffled in there, so I can't suck it out with my vacuum tool, unfortunately. And since we're switching over to engine ice, we want to get as much of the BMW coolant out as we can.
Okay.
All right, so I got the last bolt out up at the cylinder head. Now we should be able to rock our exhaust out of this back mount here, which we got. And we should just slide right off the headers here. There we go.
I heard it.
And then we'll just twist it out like so. Being careful not to scratch anything.
Very well done.
This thing's heavy.
Wow.
This thing is heavy, but we're gonna need to retrieve these 2 oxygen sensors.
All right, then we'll weigh it versus the new Arrow?
Yeah, we could pop it on the scale. Let's do it.
Okay.
Inquiring minds want to know, right?
Yep.
So we piled up our stock exhaust system here. Looks like we're hanging out right about 25, just a hair over.
Yep.
So that is pretty heavy.
Yes, it is.
And our silencer. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
About 8 pounds if we go on the heavy side.
Yep. Yep.
That is
Wow.
awesome.
Wow.
That is a huge weight savings.
Yes, it is.
And all underneath like that you feel right away. And there's
Yes.
actually that bracket that we didn't weigh up with the stock system. All right, so we got our 17-pound lighter exhaust system. First step in getting this guy installed is getting our flanges that mount to the cylinder head in position. Get our flanges that mount to the cylinder head in position and all the springs ready to go. Instruction booklet here, it looks like all of our flanges, this hole is gonna be on the upper side on each side of the engine. So there's gonna be 2 this way and then 2 that way on the other side.
Okay.
I think it's easier if you pre-hang the springs, because sometimes part of the engine casing winds up in the way to hang the spring afterward. So after we fit our exhaust in and snugged up the bolts or nuts, now we can torque them. Aero didn't give us a spec, so I'm just going with the stock spec of 14. Hopefully everything stays in place so we can just slide the headers back in.
Yes.
That's all tightened up, and the way that they have us install this exhaust system is actually to have the collector pipe installed to the header. So we're gonna reinstall it like this, but Aero numbers the pipes and they do it with a little sticker, unfortunately.
Yes.
So we have to peel that off so it doesn't get burnt into place.
Springtime.
Springtime. Sweet, we skipped winter.
Yeah. Would that be nice around here?
Yeah. Okay, hopefully everything stayed in position like we had it before, because it did go in and out. It fit really nicely.
Okay.
Put a little WD-40 on our top parts here. All right, so we were having some trouble fitting our system back in. So what I did is I had a ratchet strap lying around and I could just squeeze. I just needed these 2 pipes to come together a little bit. So that acted as my third hand. Squeeze together, we got these suckers popped right in there now.
Ingenious.
No scratching, nothing like that. So, I mean, it didn't take a lot of pressure. It was just more than I could pull and push up at the same time. So just some kind of tip if you guys need that at all. So now we have the headers installed and our collector pipes. We can go ahead and put the springs onto the header pipes, which is always a joy. So
yes.
We'll probably just wrestle them on and we'll be back popping the silencer on. All right, so we got all our header springs on and our other mid-pipe attaching springs. I like to just go around and tap the joints super lightly because the titanium will dent rather easily. But just that little bit of vibration and the spring pressure tends to seat everything. You'll see everything move just a little bit and that'll just give us a nice tight seat for the exhaust so we don't have any leaks. After that, like I was saying before, we are gonna pre-spin our oxygen sensors the opposite way. Trying not to let them knot up at the bottom. And hopefully they wind up straight when we're done installing here. Perfect, not too much twist in it at all. I think there's 1 twist, that's fine, I'm fine with that. I gotta find my 17 wrench though and we'll just snug them up. While we're talking oxygen sensors, we might as well make it back to our front ones, which we previously installed. You can see they wind up pretty tight on the oil filter. I think I have done an oil change and they're not in the way. Oil just gets dumped all over them, which probably isn't the best, but it is what it is.
Okay.
There's some metal cable routers that BMW used. I like to try to reuse them as much as possible because we can't have the cable going into the exhaust, you know?
Yes.
This side we can reuse the stock mounting point. This side they showed that you could just put this right back in here where it belonged, like so. But look how close that, I mean, it's not happening.
Yeah, no
But
way.
if you look in our handy guidebook here, I mean, they got it. It's super far away in the picture. I don't understand. Oh, where are we at? Right here. You can see it's like real far away. But we can't really bend this because this holds our belly pan. So all I do is I bring this on the other side and zip tie it.
Okay.
I don't know how they got that picture. I'd like to know. We're leaving all our stock oxygen sensors in place because it works with the Bren tuning handheld, or in our case, they're custom made.
Yes.
All right, we got our always exciting anti-seize here. We just want to get a little bit on here. so that if we ever need to get the silencer off, we're able to. Less is definitely more. Our arrow pipe uses our stock mounting point. They sent along a bolt and a nut and washer. I think the stock one just looks a lot better, so I just reused the stock one. Wipe it down with some Motul polish. Never had trouble on titanium with it, so don't see why we would. Arrow does also supply a decibel insert. Should you need it to be quieter, you can see that would be a lot quieter.
Yes, we don't want that.
No.
Filth.
Just wipe off any fingerprints because they would embed themselves in the rainbow coloring. So we try to do our best to not have that happen.
Yep. So they've seen you install Samco hoses numerous times.
Yeah, we've done it on nearly all the bikes that we build, and it's pretty much normal procedure. We'll come back once, just take an old hose off, put the new one on. We got the clamp kit, so we're not going to reuse the factory clamps. We're going to use the Samco hose clamp kit. You might ask yourself, why are you spending the extra 30 bucks? The reason is there's no sharp edges on the inside of this clamp. These are a little bit easier to snug up should they loosen up or something. You could use the factory spring clamps because they are smooth, but those are kind of a pain in the butt to work with. This is easier.
Okay.
For $30, I recommend it. All right, so you can see we started with 2 full bottles of engine ice, and it took about 1 full bottle, which is the coolant capacity, so I'm happy with what's left after we topped it off, did a little more manual bleeding.
Yeah.
So now let's see how she sounds. Settles down to a nice idle.
Yes.
All right, so we got our heat cycle done. Still lots of coolant in our expansion tank. We'll let that sit for a little bit, let it level itself out. If not, might have to empty a little out even. I don't want it that high. Because if it gets too high, it just spits it out.
Yeah.
We're like right at the max line currently.
Okay.
But we'll see where it winds up. There's probably a couple more air bubbles in there that'll dispose of that. But yeah, so that's what we got for you today. Thanks for staying, thanks for tuning in. We got the full titanium aero exhaust on there and some Samco coolant hoses and some engine ice in. On our way towards getting toward Bren tuning at the end of the week here. So lots of cool stuff happening. Stay tuned. Next video is going to be all about Bren tuning products that they sell and what happens before you could take your bike to them or before you get your handheld, what you can do. It's not stuff that you necessarily have to, but what you can do. We'll explain it all. Okay. So stay tuned for that one. Thanks everyone. We'll catch you later.
Later, man. Well, you heard Mr. Zack. He's worked very hard on this motorcycle to get this beautiful full titanium aero Motomillion exhaust installed, along with our typical blue Samco hoses, which you know look great, perform well, and just do the job completely. Engine ice is in this motorcycle as well, so if you have to do a track day, you're one step ahead of the game. One lucky person is going to have a tough choice to make yet again between this and the 2019 Aprilia RSV4 1100 factory. Information on how that person might be you down below in the description. All right, folks, we'll catch you next time on the New Bike Build series.